Do you ever wonder where a person is able to go on a quest for a sign from God? You know that moment when you hope to blend in with the madness, and the boundary between the sacred and the absurd, it is dissolved completely? Because that's exactly where this story goes. One evening, seemingly ordinary, in a small town, where the faith has a significance in the hearts of the people. It is an ancient church, with its bell ringing softly in the wind, and as long as people come in slowly, looking for comfort, solace, hope, or just a sense of peace. It is against this backdrop that we meet the protagonist of this story, a man who, for some reason, it was decided to ask for a sign from heaven. His only hope was so great that he was perhaps a divine intervention could change your life, or, at the very least, to give you an answer to that question that he was doing. But what he did not know is that if you want to have this sign-on with a faith in the midst of investments would end up getting something very different from what you expected. And this is the part that is going to make your jaw drop, because, believe me, what has happened since it's so surreal that it seems like the script of a movie, a comedy, or rather, the humor, the gospel, trash it. Have you ever gone through something like that? You may have already made a desperate prayer, a promise, mad, or even a request for a divine intervention in your daily routine. And do you know what happens when we ask for something in faith, but with a hint of doubt, or even kidding me? It could be that the universe, or, rather, the forces that you have no idea, they decide to give you, in a way more creative than you'd expect. It's just such a mixture of hope, madness, and a touch of humor, what makes this story so compelling. Stay with me until the very end, because that's all you're going to find out right now might surprise you, and make you reconsider everything you think you know about the faith, the signs, and even on top of the world. Who would have thought that one simple prayer, a miracle, or to search for a sign from God, could end up in a scene so ridiculous, so full of spines upgrade, and laugh, and that's going to leave you wondering, where will the line between the sacred and the ridiculous? You're going to see that, at times, to ask for an answer in the sky can turn into the greatest comedy the divine that anyone has ever witnessed. And, most impressive of all, that is, in the end, this story presents a lesson on who is worth more than 1,000 prayers, are well made. So, get ready, because the next thing that happens is it's a real rollercoaster ride of thrills, humor, and a little bit of havoc in heaven, and that are going to make you laugh, reflect, and perhaps even change the way you look at it. Is it really a sign from God? Now, in order to understand what really happened that afternoon in the faith, and the spines upgrade, you need to take the next step and dive deep into this scene of faith, madness, and justice for others. Sometimes, life presents us with a moment of silence. They seem to be loaded with meaning hidden. That one moment where everything seems to stop, and in the silence, we can hear what your heart really wants to say. It is in this space between what was and what could possibly be oftentimes, we find the answers that were in the books, or in words, but in our own selves. And it is precisely at this point that we realize how much our faith, no matter how simple it may seem, it is a bridge to the invisible, which it connects with our deepest emotions to the world around us. Think about it. Everything is like opening a window to a deeper understanding, where every sign, every detail, takes on a new meaning. Every action, every word spoken, or hidden, there seems to charge a special, tailor-made for those who are aware of. And, along the way, we've learned that we are not alone in the search for meaning. Is there a greater power, even in the smallest of things, to guide our feet silently? It is as if, in the midst of the chaos, we find a peace that reminds us that everything is part of a larger plan, even when everything seems to be confused or senseless. And this time it made some sense to you. I say to you, I invite you to let us in the comments what else has touched your heart. Please share your insights or have any experience in this regard, because their story is also a part of this journey. And then, this reflection, I brought you some comfort and hope, and it will leave your like, so that we can spread the word about this to anyone who also needs to hear it. After all, it's what we do here is just to create a network connection is true, and each of us contributes to the fact that this is the message of faith, hope, and authenticity that will continue to spread. And if you want to continue to explore these topics with me, take advantage and subscribe to the channel. Every step we take together and strengthens you in this journey. Right now, for us to continue to deepen this topic, there's something even more important what you need to understand. I now want to go more in depth on the subject, because, in fact, everything is what it appears to be simple on the surface. It loads with a hidden layer of meaning that often we are letting it go, because of fear, or by a slip of the tongue. When you begin to realize that our actions, our thoughts, and our choices every day to have a direct impact on the quality of the product, it all gets a whole new dimension. In the sense that we are mere spectators of what is happening all around us disappeared, giving way to the realization that we are, in fact, the authors of this story. And in that discovery, while poor, also brings with it a huge responsibility. It's as if, when you open your eyes to the truth, we could come across a mirror which reflects not only who we are but who we can become. This is the question of the connection is real, for example, is not only an idea of the beautiful, or a sentence to that effect. It requires courage, great to look inward and acknowledge that we may have created invisible barriers along the way, keeping our emotions in a more genuine and flourish. Many of the times, and bear the sorrow, worries, or limiting beliefs that act as the bars invisible, and it's keeping you stuck into a rut of self-pity, or for their conformity. But, at the same time, well aware of that, it also shows that we have the power to break the chains, to set a new narrative, one that is more aligned to what you actually are, in addition, that which we ordinarily appear to be in front of the world. And then there comes a question that too often we avoid our vulnerability. Because you are, in essence, it is the key to this connection is a more in-depth. When we allow ourselves to be real, without masks, or masks of the social, we can begin to attract the people who vibrate at the same frequency, which are also in a quest for authenticity. It is a movement that is quiet, almost invisible, but they will grow stronger each made a conscious decision to be who you really are, even if it means letting go of some of the agreements and the approval of others. And, in the process, we realize that our strength is not in perfection, but in the courage to accept the imperfections of the understanding of who we are, a mosaic of experiences, sorrows, joys, and lessons. This internal transformation, which often feels like a small act of courage, in fact it is a silent revolution that changes our whole perspective on the world. When we recognize this power, and we seek external validation, and begin to validate our own self-nature, it's as if, suddenly, everything seemed to be an obstacle as an opportunity for real growth. From this point on, every decision, every word, every silence carries a different weight, one intention, which is closer to the truth, for a connection, no matter how sincere. And then, when you understand the dynamics, we find that the change does not have to come from a large outdoor event, but a movement is the internal, which propagates as a wave, which is expanding beyond where you can see it. With this understanding, it also casts a new light on all the time, and it really doesn't matter. Because many of the times we have spent too much energy fighting what we can't control it, not realizing that the higher power is in our ability to change our way of looking at things. In the universe, and here I refer not only to the laws of the living, but to the power that dwells within each and every one of us responds to our vibration and our deepest thoughts. If you feed it, the hope, the faith, and of the gratitude, the more difficult it will be to the point we can begin to create a reality in which what we want to achieve is possible. It is a matter of alignment, connecting you with such a force, invisible, the only we can feel when you stop and listen to the silence inside of us. And, it's just that listening to it makes all the difference. Because, in the rush of day-to-day, and we never forget that the highest wisdom lies within our own selves, our intuition, that he may whisper that comes from within, and is often drowned by the noise of the outside world. When we make space to listen to that whisper, I started to realize that all the answers that we have always been there, to be accessible, just waiting for us to allow them to see beyond the surface. And then, at that moment, the whole of our journey of self-discovery gets a new dimension, a deeper, more real. We have found that our greatest strength is the force in and of itself, but in the courage to be vulnerable, to face our own shadows and with love and compassion. In this way, although at times it may seem lonely, and it's also the richest of all. Why, when we connect with the truth within, we realize that we are not alone. There are others who, like us, are seeking the same light, the same as authentic. And, here we share with you in this quest, we have a network that is invisible to the souls of the rest, that is to get in the essence, the same without the need for too many words. It's a connection that goes beyond the surface, it penetrates to the core of who we are, and what it teaches us that the real transformation begins from the inside to the outside. It is a movement of courage, surrender, trust in one's own heart. And, if you think about all of this, it is clear that this is a journey of self-discovery, of awakening. It is not a straight line. It is full of twists and turns, ups and downs, moments of doubt, and in the interests of clarity. But, precisely, in these times of uncertainty, we can find greater opportunities for growth. Because when we allow ourselves to feel everything that comes up, without resisting or judging, we opened up the space for new opportunities to present themselves. And then, of a sudden, what seemed to be impossible, if it makes it to a door, open to a new way, a chance to rewrite our history, with more love, more authenticity, and more in true connection with everything around us. And so, we are going to discover the greatest secret of life is in his or her ability to be true to ourselves, to trust our own inner light, and to understand that the more we connect with that power, the more the universe conspires in our favor, and revealing that everything we seek is already within you, just waiting to be recognized. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. And then, when you delve a little bit deeper, we realize that the connection with our inner selves is not something that is achieved from one minute to the next, or practice you only with the theory. It is a process of a silent, often invisible to the eye, but it beats a strong heart. It's like a seed that, when planted in the soil of our souls, in need of care, patience, and perseverance to grow. And then, in the loop, we have learned that the greatest battle is not outside, but within us, in our minds, our emotions, and our strength to accept who you truly are, without masks, without fear, without judgment. The truth is that no matter what we try to hide our vulnerability, that they will always find a way to emerge for us to pull into the center of one's being, from where it rests on a strength that we don't know who most of the time. This is power. It is often mistaken for weakness and poor, but in fact, it's our greatest power. It is she who leads the way in the darkness and gives us the courage to keep going even when everything seems to fall apart. You reveal to us, in the midst of the chaos, there is a light that never goes out, even when everything around you tell you to the contrary. And in this light, it is our very essence, the one that we have from the very outset, that connects us to the universe, and which, when awakened, it transforms everything around us. It's such a frequency, that is, to be turned in, it makes it all lines up in a natural way, without any effort, without any resistance. And in that moment, we realize that our journey of self-discovery that is not a search for something that is external, but the rediscovery of who we really are on the inside. Return to home to our true self, that which is often hidden under layers of conditioning, fears, and expectations of others. And, to the extent that we are going to unveil the layers, we can begin to understand that life isn't a matter of control, but is required for delivery. Learn how to trust in the flow, which leads us to where we need to be, without standing up, without a fight is inevitable. Because, deep down, it leads us to the right places, even though at times it may seem that we are moving in the opposite direction. This understanding brings peace and quiet. There is an assurance that doesn't depend on external circumstances, but also a deep connection with our inner selves. And, at this point, it all becomes clear. It's our greatest strength lies in our authenticity, and the courage to be who you really are, even if it goes against everything we have been taught. The authenticity of it is an act of self-love, and a statement that you deserve to live according to the truth, without fear of judgment, without worrying about pleasing others. The more we allow ourselves to be of this version is true to ourselves, the more the universe responds to opportunities, meetings, and opportunities that before would have seemed impossible. It's as if, when you open the door to our inner selves, we begin to attract all of the things that we really want to, because, in essence, what we have always been with us, just waiting for us to remember who we really are. And, in doing so, we realize that our freedom is not in the passage outside, or in the validation of a third party, but in our ability to accept ourselves completely. The latter is poor, and, at the same time, challenging. Because you need to have the courage to look inward, look at our shades of accepting our own imperfections and, even then, to move forward with love and faith. And when you do that, everything in our world is transformed, because we radiate an energy that is accessible, that will touch and inspire anyone who is on our side. This is the real advantage of being true to oneself, the ability to transform the world around us through our own inner transformation. And in that moment, it all connects in a natural way, which gives us the feeling that we have never been separate from what they are. In fact, it is as if, by reconnecting with the essence, it finally found its way back to home, to the place where it all makes sense, and where it all fits together, and where life is starting to come easier, and with more truth. But to do that, you have to have the courage to face your own truth, open up your heart to the things you often avoid to look at it, to accept that our greatest strength lies in our vulnerability. Because, in doing so, we found out that we are complete, and that you carry within you is a light, powerful, and able to brighten up even the darkest corners of our lives. And in that light, when it is recognized, nurtured, it becomes our best ally on the journey, evolution, and are in search of a life more full, more real, more in line with what you really are. And so, our story is still a constant struggle against the world, and it turns out to be a dance in harmony with the universe, in recognition of our authenticity, and the support in the realization of our dreams, more of the deep. Because, deep down, all we seek is a genuine connection with ourself, the more the real the one that knows how he feels, and when you listen to it, he reveals the greatest wisdom is to just be who we really are. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. Because, when you understand this connection, we can begin to understand the true strength you are the strength, or the desperate effort to control everything around us, but in the ability to align with the natural flow of life. It is as if, by giving up a fight in the libertassimos of charge the unseen that we have for so long a time, without notice. This burden, many a times, it is formed by the expectations and limiting beliefs, and fear and silent we may be accepted or may not be enough. When we realize this, we begin to see that the biggest battle is within us, what we are, in fact, and the thing that we had to be in order to please the world. And, at this point, the transformation starts to happen in a near silent, as the breeze that comes in through the window, and it takes a while for the weight of the old aches and pains and insecurities. It is in this space of acceptance that our essence is revealed with more power, as to a light that warms and illuminates everything around her. When we fight against our own imperfections, we have begun to realize that they are all part of the process of evolution. Each and every scar, every mistake, every doubt, all of this makes up our story in a unique, no one else can tell us. And this understanding gives us immense freedom, a freedom that is only possible when we learn to trust our own truth, even if it is different from what the world expects or throws at you. Therefore, we create a new narrative, one that is aligned with who we really are, and not the mask that we wear to protect ourselves, or to be perceived as more acceptable. This is a journey of self-discovery that is not linear or easy, because you need to have the courage to face the many times that we would prefer to conceal. It requires that we look at in the eyes, face it, no filters, no judgments. And when we do that, we have found that many of our limitations are the result of the reed that distorted our history, and to the inner voice that tells us we are not good enough or that you don't deserve what you want. But, at the same time, it also reveals a profound truth, that it's all that we need to change our lives. It is already inside us, just waiting for you to have the courage to reach it. It's like a seed that, when planted in the earth, sure, it blooms and bears fruit with incredible, even though the ground may seem barren, or a challenging one. When this alarm occurs, we realize that our most important mission is not to conquer the world out there, but a win for us, for our peace of mind, self-esteem, and the confidence and trust in the journey. And that even if it is not a final destination, but a path of continual learning, the evolution of everyday, for the small wins, which, when added together, they build a new life for those who choose to look beyond the surface. It is during this process that we have been taught that true freedom is born of authenticity, and the courage to be who you truly are, without masks, without the fear of being judged or misunderstood. Because, deep down, each and every one of us carries a unique light that only shines for you when we are truly ourselves. I now want to go more in depth on this subject, because, as we reflect on such an intimate connection with ourselves, the more real, we see that it also shows us just how much we are a part of something bigger than themselves. An invisible force, yet powerful, that on the guide that supports us in the most difficult moments and smiles at us in the times of the conquest. This is the force of the universe, which is the essence of life pulsing within each and every one of us, reminding us that we are not alone in this journey. That is, even in moments of doubt, of pain, and loneliness, there is a silent presence that holds us, that encourages us to move forward. It's like an ancestral memory, a power that spans time and space, connecting our heart to the heart of all living things. When we allow ourselves to feel such a connection, changes everything. The fear is that once appeared to be so large, it decreases in the presence of this for sure, invisible, and there is, then, a sense of belonging and purpose. We have begun to understand that our choices have a more profound impact than we realize, and that every decision is an opportunity to align our lives with such a major force that sustains all of us. And, in doing so, we began to live more lightly on the planet, with a greater appreciation of, and with a joy that is not dependent on external circumstances, but for sure, the interior of which, we are exactly where we are supposed to be. That understanding transformed the way we see the challenges, the losses and the victories, because they all became a part of the big dance, where every step, every stumble, it's part of the routine that only the heart can understand. And, at this time, our day-to-day becomes a celebration of the constant of who we are and who we can be when we are free from the bonds that we have created out of fear or insecurity. It's like a rewrite of our route, where we take on the role of the main protagonists of history, the courage, authenticity, and love. And when you do that, you start to realize that the real power lies in our ability to choose each day who you want to be, regardless of what the world has to say. Because, deep down, we are the authors of our own freedom, and that freedom is the most beautiful expression of our essence is pure. And so, we go forward with a heart full of hope, and the soul is aware of it all the same, it starts inside of us. Says right there, I came to realize the truth. And when you think about all of this, we've noticed that this is a journey of self-discovery is not a straight line, but it is a path full of curves, ups and downs, just as if we were sailing through a sea that, at times, looks like the calm, and, on the other, to fully turbulent. Every decision we make, every thought we choose to feed is going to shape the inside, creating a sort of tile, complex, and beautiful, and that is not who we really are, in addition to the mask, which is often used to fit in or please others. It is in his home that we find the true power, is the one that drives us forward, even when everything seems to fall apart, because, deep down, we know that change begins in our minds, in our hearts and in our willingness to see beyond the surface. And, in so doing, we can begin to understand that the universe conspires to help those who have the courage to face your own shadows, to challenge your limiting beliefs and recognizing their deepest wound, without the fear of exposing them to the sun. Because the only way we were able to release the things that hold them, and to make room for something new, the most real, the most closely aligned with our essence is pure. In this process, we have learned that fear is often an illusion that we create in our heads, like a shadow that feeds off of that, don't we? And, in the light of these shadows, we find out that what seemed to be scary, in fact it's an opportunity to get ahead. A door that opens to a version that is stronger and more aware of ourselves. It is as if, in desprendemos from the shackles of the past, we could be able to float free, with a more lightly on the planet to create the gift we really want. And there you have it, everything starts to make sense of it. The pain, the joy, the loss, the successes, because each and every one of these experiences is a fundamental piece of our jigsaw puzzle is internal, that is only complete when we run away from ourselves, and we are very happy to accept the truth, with all your faults and strengths. At this moment you wake up, you realize that the world is running away from our truths, but to embrace them with courage, in the knowledge that you are solely responsible for making the us is limited in what it leads us. And it is this awareness that gives us the ability to create a new reality, one that arises from the inside to the outside, where true leadership is our own, and not that of the external environment. Thus, the decision-making becomes an act of self-love, a declaration is silent, we are ready to evolve and to reinvent ourselves, to evolve beyond what could have imagined to be possible. And then, in the continuous stream of self-discovery, we found that the higher the secret is in the simple to be true to ourselves, to listen to our intuition and to trust that even in the darkest moments there is a light that guides us, if we allow it to. Because, deep down, all of the things that we are looking out for us has already taken place on the inside, just waiting for the moment to be revealed to him, to be accepted, to be recognized as a part of our lives, more in depth. And then, when that is understood, we can begin to understand that life is not a struggle against the world, but one to dance with it, a chance to learn, to grow, to turn to it every step. Because, at the end of the day, the only battle that really matters is that we fight with ourselves, is the one who decides if we are going to keep stuck to our own limits, or if we are free to fly the highest, the lightest, the most real. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, because that, when you immerse yourself in the essence, we find that the real power lies in the strength that we fight against that which makes us uncomfortable, but in the courage to accept who we are, to recognize our authenticity as the world's largest source of freedom. And, so, more and more, we've learned that life is an opportunity to be who we really are, without the mask, without the mask, without the mask. And, when we do that, we seek outside validation, relying on the opinions of others, and we have confidence in our own voice, our own true. This is the place that all changes, because we have ceased to be a hostage of your expectations and we create our own reality, with authenticity, with love, and with a purpose. And, to the extent that realization sets in, you feel an inner peace that I never before had experienced it, the feeling that everything makes sense, everything is exactly where it should be, because we are aligned with our essence is pure. Thus, we have found that the greatest secret of life is this, the freedom to be who we are of the truth, even if it means walking in the opposite direction of that of the world, because, after all, is our happiness depends only on one thing, and that we allow ourselves to live up to who we really are, in the truest authenticity. And, in the awakening, it all gets a whole new dimension and depth that makes us connect with it which is eternal is that it does not get lost all the time, it is not limited to the difficulty. Because, at the end of the day, we are, ourselves, and the greatest treasure we can find, and grow over the course of the journey. And then, when that is understood, we realize that with every step, as small as it may seem, it is an opportunity to reinforce who you are, and to reaffirm your freedom to choose to move forward with courage and hope. Because, even in the most difficult moments, the truth remains that we are the authors of our own history, and that history can only be beautiful when it's written with authenticity, love, and a deeper connection with ourself, the more real. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that understanding is the key to unlocking our full potential, to transform each challenge into a gateway to the growth, so that we can finally live the life you have always dreamed of, with the certainty that it all begins within ourselves. Says right there, I came to realize the truth. And that's exactly where the Raleigh journey begins to unfold, because, in essence, all the things that we look out there, it's a reflection of what we carry inside of us. You spend years trying to change the world around us, try to control situations, people, circumstances, such as if happiness was something that could be purchased, earned, or can be manipulated with the effort on the outside. But, in essence, that this is all an illusion, that takes us away from the truth, the most profound of which is the power of transformation has always been inside of us, waiting to be activated at the right time, by the time you decide to open your eyes to this consciousness. It is as if each and every hurdle, every challenge, and it was kind of a call to silent, to look within, to listen to the things that a lot of times we would prefer to avoid. It's because you accept to our very essence, is about having the courage. It requires sincerity and, above all, a provision of a genuine stage with what we believe to be the truth, or the greatest limitation. And, in doing so, we begin to realize that real change comes not from the strategies of foreign or magical formulas, but an inner transformation, an overhaul of our beliefs, and our stories, and of all things that we've learned throughout life, and a lot of times we hold on to an identity that no longer serves us. The beauty of this discovery is that it gives us a freedom that is huge, because when you come to realize that we are the creators of our own reality, we understand that each and every decision, every thought, every feeling, and it has a huge weight on our journey. And there you have it, the responsibility is no longer something heavy, and it turns out to be a chance to get to know each other the truth, to be free from the bonds that we have created in their minds and in their hearts. This is freedom. It is a process of awakening, a journey of self-discovery that reveals itself to be, in essence, a more pure, and they are so much more than the circumstances that surround us, that we are the authors of our own destiny. And, as we become more aware of this fact, we can begin to design a new narrative, a story in which we are protagonists, in which each step is an expression of our authenticity, and that's where our essence becomes the driving force behind all that we hope to experience in the world. And in that moment of deep thought, it is clear that the revelation is in the simplicity of its truth. It all begins inside of us, and that is the basis of this understanding. We can transform the pain into wisdom, and failure into a learning process, every bump on the bridge that leads to a high level of self-awareness. There is no room for blame or excuses, because, if we look within, we discover that we are the ones responsible for all that we live in, and at the same time, the ones that can change the story. And this change doesn't have to be something big and dramatic, and she is, in fact, it is a matter of choice, and a daily, the small actions that, when added together, they create a new reality, a new way of looking at the world and ourselves. This is the attitude of courage, authenticity, and what it leads us to a state of greater connection with our inner selves, and which, in turn, gives us the strength to move forward, even when everything seems to be crumbling around us. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that understanding is the key to unlocking our full potential, to transform each challenge into a gateway to the growth, so that we can finally live the life you have always dreamed of, with the certainty that it all begins within ourselves. And when you make that connection, we see that this is a journey of self-discovery, is a ladder that you don't have an end, in a never-ending quest for understanding who you really are behind the mask, expectations, and constraints that often accepted as an absolute truth. It is a movement of the detachment, of freedom. It calls us to leave what no longer serves us, to make room for the new, for something that really resonates with our inner selves. And, as we move forward on this path of life, will become a great opportunity for the evolution of the continuous discovery of deep connection with the universe, what dwells within us. Everything seemed to be hard, now turns out to be an opportunity for growth, because when you look inside, you will find the strength that was always there, hidden beneath the layers of doubt, fear, and limiting beliefs, just waiting for the one moment of courage to come up and drive us forward to a new phase of awareness and realization. It is in this movement is the discovery of what we perceive to be the real power is in control of everything around you. But you know what is the real control lies in our ability to change our minds, change our perspective, to reprogram our emotions. When we change, the world around us becomes, because we see opportunities where we see obstacles, we work with more lightness and authenticity, and, most of all, we began to feel more and more connected with who you really are. This connection is what gives meaning to everything, and that is what fuels our hope and our faith in life and in the lives of our ability to create a reality in alignment with our dreams, with the most profound. And, once you understand this truth, it is within the reach of all. We notice that the highest freedom is the decision we have known each other for truth, for us to accept who we are, without masks, without judgment, and allow you to evolve in the face of difficulties. Because, after all, the greatest power lies in our vulnerability, in our willingness to look within and embrace all the things that we love, and compassion. Now, I want you to go even deeper on this subject, because it is this understanding that is the key to unlocking our full potential, to transform each challenge into a gateway to the growth, so that we can finally live the life you have always dreamed of, with the certainty that it all begins within ourselves. And when you make that connection, we see that this is a journey of self-discovery, is a ladder that you don't have an end, in a never-ending quest for understanding who you really are behind the mask, expectations, and constraints that often accepted as an absolute truth. It is a movement of the detachment, of freedom. It calls us to leave what no longer serves us, to make room for the new, for something that really resonates with our inner selves. And, as we move forward on this path of life, will become a great opportunity for the evolution of the continuous discovery of deep connection with the universe, what dwells within us. Everything seemed to be hard, now turns out to be an opportunity for growth, because when you look inside, you will find the strength that was always there, hidden beneath the layers of doubt, fear, and limiting beliefs, just waiting for the one moment of courage to come up and drive us forward to a new phase of awareness and realization. And so, their journey becomes a delicate dance between what we are and who we can become, a kind of a standing invitation to explore a new territory built in, to ask questions about all the things that we've been taught, and it often prevents us from living an authentic. In it, we see that the greater the truth is simple. We are the creators, are able to turn our dream into a reality when you decide to believe in a power that dwells in all of us. It is liberating because it frees us from the weight of thinking that the world is out there, it's responsible for our happiness or our failure. Right now, we have realized that the true power lies in our ability to choose how we will face it every moment, every challenge, every opportunity for growth. And, if you make this choice, we can begin to write a new chapter in its history, a history that reflects our essence is pure, the one who is never far away, just hidden under the layers of insecurity and fear. And in this moment of awakening, we make it clear that we are the authors of our own lives, and our mission is to discover who we are. In fact, in addition to the masks, in addition to the constraints that we have imposed. Because, at the end of the day, this is the most freedom you can gain, the freedom to be who we really are, living in the truth, and, therefore, connect us to the deepest core of everything that exists. And when that happens, everything on the outside will make the most sense to you, because ultimately we came to understand that the greatest secret of life is to look on the inside, with a spirit of courage and love, and discover that we are much more than we think. And it is precisely at this moment of discovery, which began to notice that the whole of our journey, it's not about achieving something that is external, but rather to explore what lies within us, hidden under the layers of fear, expectations, and routines that we have turned away from our inner selves. Every step we take is in the direction of the understanding of our true self, is a type of release, silent, in an opening of the door, which had, until then, they were barred from the convention and limiting beliefs. It's as if, when you get in touch with this truth within us, we begin to see the world through eyes of a different, lighter, more honest, more compassionate with ourselves and others. And that change doesn't happen from one minute to the next. It is built with a small gesture, with choices, the courage to look at the inside even when everything around us seems to indicate that we have to adjust, to hide, or to be reconciled. As we go through this journey, we begin to understand that the biggest secret to it is not in search of anything out there, but to figure out what has always been kept up to us, as it is a gem that needs to be discovered with a gentle and patient. Many of us carry a feeling of emptiness, and a constant doubt about who we are, why we learn to identify ourselves with masks and roles that have been imposed, or that we have created in the course of time, to please, to be part of, or to escape to our own detriment. But, when we decided to strip off those layers, we can begin to feel a freedom that cannot be explained, such a relief that it permeates every cell in your body, as you and we are breathing in the fresh air of authenticity. Oh, and here comes the revelation of the most powerful. When you accept who you are, without judgment or condemnation, you start to realize that you don't need external validation or approval of anyone else in order to be complete. At our core, before it's hidden by our own doubts, and come back to life as a soft glow, lighting the way back to the house, so that the venue is built, where everything comes together, where your heart finds peace and the spirit it feels to be in harmony with the universe. That self-awareness is, in fact, the greatest revolution that we can do that, because it transforms the way we interact with the world and with the people, and the difficulty, even with all our faults. It starts to take on a new meaning, a new vision, a vision for a more compassionate and loving. And, if you look at this transformation, we see that she, too, is a bridge that connects us with something bigger. A symphony is one of the energies that surround us, and remind us that we are part of a whole is infinite, for the web of life that lives and breathes in every detail, in every breath. It's as we are reconnecting with our essence, which is also reintegrissimos with the understanding that it is all a matter of alignment and harmony with the natural flow of things. And then, in the alignment, we will find true freedom, one that is not dependent on external circumstances, but that comes from the inside to the outside, the freedom it allows us to be who we really are, without fear, without a mask, with a spirit of courage and love. I now want to go more in depth on this issue, because this is the quest for authenticity is not a final destination but a continuous journey, an invitation, journal, to discover, to reinvent yourself, to accept it. It is a movement that challenges us to look beyond the surface, to question our own beliefs and to embrace the vulnerability, such as a friend too. When we do that, we open up the space for new possibilities, to flourish, to make our dreams more real to the surface and form, because, ultimately, we are aligned with our essence. And it is this alignment that we find the strength to change our lives, to create a reality that reflects who we really are, without fear and without limits. That's the beauty of the journey, it never ends, it only grows, like a river that never stops to run, bringing the truth of each curve, every moment of courage, that we've decided to let you live. And, in it, everything takes on a new rhythm, a new color, a new lease of life. Leave us a comment, I want to hear it. And then, as the current findings will deepen inside of us, we realize that it's the true transformation is not something that happens at one time or another, but rather is an ongoing process, a delicate, and often quiet. It's like a seed that, when planted, it takes time, care, and patience to grow up and show all of their beauty. And this is the seed. Often it is hidden beneath the layers of doubt, fear, and limiting beliefs that have built up over the years. The question is, how much of all this is that you're willing to leave behind? How much of our older versions, we are really, really ready to drop, to clear space for anything more authentic, more real? The answer, often, is the courage to face the unknown, to peel off the mask and to accept that the change is not an event, but it's a daily commitment to our core. It is at this point that we begin to realize that everything connects to our choices, our thoughts, our emotions, and, most importantly, our relationship with the world around us. Because you are, in fact, in this connection, the deep reveal that you are a part of a bigger flow of energy that touches and inspires us to wake up to a new reality. And this awakening is a unique experience, one that demands the full attention that it challenges us to get out of your comfort zone and, at the same time, we are offering you our immense freedom and a chance to recreate what we thought was set in stone. In the life, and it is no longer a matter of chance, and it is a creation of consciousness. Every decision, every step you take, it becomes an expression of who we are, who we want to be. And that somehow, everything around you, because the outer world is a reflection of our soul, like a mirror, it responds to our deepest truths. It's as if, when you look at the inside of sincerity, we begin to dissolve the invisible barriers that prevent us from moving forward, and with each small victory, each insight is a light that shines on our path, showing that the universe conspires in favor of those who know and accept the truth. And, in it, we realize that we are not alone in this journey. There is an invisible force, a presence, that supports us, even in the most difficult moments, when you feel that everything is falling apart. It is our essence, our soul, that is, to be silent, to remind us that we are on the circumstances, most of the emotions that ebb and flow, rather than the opinions of others. We are a spark of the divine, and a portion of the infinite, which is always aimed to return to a state of harmony with others. And when you understand it, you start to realize that what really matters is not the achievements of the outside, but a deep emotional connection with the things that make us vibrate with the things that brought us peace and meaning. Because, deep down, the real wealth is in the authenticity and being true to ourselves, no matter what the world expects or requires. When it's this authenticity that makes you a top priority, everything around you starts to line up in a way that seemed to be impossible. The door was opened, and the opportunity to appear in a natural way, and we are more sensitive to the messages the universe sends our way. It is a dance of subtle tuning that is only gained by attention, with our self-love, and the courage to follow your heart, even when the path seems unclear. And on this journey, we have also learned to appreciate the patience and understanding that each and every step, however small it may seem, it is essential for the construction of a new reality. After all, what is a change if you don't have a collection of small decisions taken on the mind? And, in the end, we realize that all the things that seemed to be difficult, and it seemed to be a constant struggle, it was really an opportunity in disguise of a challenge. Every obstacle is a lesson. Every fall is a chance to raise up more strong, more in line with who you really are. And so, life turns out to be a great invitation to a new journey of self-discovery that is never-ending, always taking a little bit closer to our essence is pure. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. I guess when you think about all of this, we can begin to understand that the greatest strength is our ability to connect with that truth within us, to trust in their own intuition and let go of the control that you too often we try to carry all over the place. Because you are, in essence, what we are looking for, that is just the freedom to be who you are, in fact, to set us free from the bonds that we make up from time to time and to embrace our infinite potential. And that freedom is more than a right. It is up to the daily to allow ourselves to feel it, to dare to dream, and act with courage. And, as we do, our life turns into a narrative full of meaning, in which each chapter is an opportunity to grow, to love, and authenticity. And, in this context, the greatest beauty is in the simplicity of accepting that it's true, that change starts within, and that it is a journey of self-discovery, continuous, in a search that never ends as long as we have the will to improve. So, it is a reflection on how far we are willing to give up that which limits us to embrace what makes us free. And how can we, in practice, care for this daily connection with our inner selves, even in the face of a world that is increasingly fast-paced and absent-minded? These questions remain up in the air, like seeds awaiting for the time to sprout, and inviting each and every one of us to delve even deeper into our own truth. He comments that, "I feel that this is the real thing." And it is precisely at this point that a lot of times we feel stuck, as if we are at an inflection point in the invisible, where the choices you make seem to weigh a ton. The truth is that, as much as we wish to be free from the bonds that surround us, there is a quiet strength inside of us. We are afraid that's disguised as a routine use, security, social approval. This resistance acts as a filter that distorts a person's perception, making it difficult to see that, when open, let go of what limits us, in fact we are getting closer to our essence is pure, that is the nucleus of which he has been at the core of our being. And this is a journey of discovery. No matter how challenging it may be, it is also one of the most liberating, because it invites us to recognize that it really doesn't matter what never has been outsourced, but it's always been there, waiting for the moment to be seen and accepted. When we first started to look into it with more courage, we have realized that all the answers that we are looking out there, they are just the echoes of the fact that already resides within us. And, in the process, we learn that the change begins with small, daily decisions. With choices you can connect with our essence, the same as that of the world around you seems to be running at an astounding rate. It is an exercise in the presence of a listener. Be silent. Learn to know the difference between the noise of what's really important. And when you do that, you start to realize that the biggest obstacle to many times is we are by ourselves, by our own limiting beliefs, fears of missing out on something that we believe to be essential, when, in fact, we are only holding on to the one that prevents us from learning. This thought brings a greater depth of understanding. Freedom is not a definitive conquest, but in daily practice, with a choice of constant letting go of that which binds us, to be open to the new, and the things that make us grow. The connection to the core of who we are not is something that can be reached in an hour to the other. It is like a seed that needs to be done with patience, with that love of self and a willingness to listen to the signals it sends out. These signs often come in the form of silence, of intuition, of the tiny sensations that alert us to the paths that we must follow or avoid. It is a journey of self-discovery that takes courage, because a lot of times, we face our own personal ghosts, our deepest doubts, our wounds, who continue to resist treatment. But when you persist in this way, we can begin to understand that it's what we have to do is just to be able to choose who we are to each and every day. They decide to leave behind what no longer serves, and to embrace that which makes our eyes sparkle, our soul is vibrating. And, that transformation, the quiet, and always shall be displayed in our attitude, in our actions, in the way that we interact with the world and with the people around you. In the process, it becomes clear that the real change is not dependent on external circumstances, but from an internal decision to reconnect with the truth that is in all of us. It is an attitude of courage, authenticity, and honesty with yourself. Because, deep down, we know that everything that limits us, it's a story that we've created to protect us, but that often leads to trapping. And then, when you see this, we rewrite this narrative, one that is to create a new chapter that is on the rise, which may make you feel more alive, more in line with who you really are. And in this rewrite is an act of self-love, and a statement that you deserve to live a full life, free from the restraints that have been imposed by the belief that it does not belong to me anymore. It is also a call for having the courage to leave what you don't is used, to allow yourself to feel, to be open to the unknown, because it is in him that we find our truth. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, Because that is the very essence of freedom, is not the absence of obstacles and difficulties, but in the ability to maintain our connection with the more real we are, no matter what happens around you. It's like an inner light, which, over time, will become stronger and stronger, lighting up the pathways in the dark, give us the strength to move forward, even when everything around you seemed to fall down. In this light, it is our very essence, the one that never dies, even the darkest nights. And then, when you recognize and nurture that light, we have begun to realize that the real power lies in our ability to pick and choose what we carry inside of us. We decide what stories we want to tell you, what are the emotions that we want to nurture. This is the journey of 1,000 auto libertaceo, which requires us to be present, with a commitment to be faithful to our own truth, even if the truth is to go against everything and everyone. After all, it is the largest of freedom is the one that arises from within, out of that deep connection with who we really are, and that is reflected in the courage to live authentically, to be shown to the world without a mask, without the fear of judgment or rejection. I want to leave this discussion up in the air, like a seed ready to sprout in his mind. The freedom to be who you really are is not something that is apart from one time to another, but in practice each and every day, with a decision of whether or not to reconnect with your essence, of listening to your inner voice and do what it says. Because, deep down, that the more we limit it's just in our own strength, for fear of releasing the control, to give up the things that no longer make sense, but for some reason, still we hold on to. And, in doing so, it is evident that the greatest act of courage is to just allow yourself to feel. If you let it grow, if you allow yourself to be who you really are, without filters, without the masks, without the fear of being judged. And so, a step by step in this journey of self-discovery, it becomes a journey of freedom, where every decision is an opportunity to reaffirm our connection with that which is eternal and true in all of us. Says right there, I came to realize the truth. If you've come this far, it's because that's the message he spoke to you in some way. Few people manage to stick to this kind of thinking up to the end, and if you're here, it's certainly something that's within you. It resonated with everything that has been shared with the public. Says right there, I came to realize this fact. I know that this conversation has come into your heart. If this is the journey you, touched you in some way, take advantage and subscribe to the channel. Here, we sought to create a space of reflection, the true, and where each has a story, every insight, it may help you to get a better understanding and to be able to connect you with the most earnest inside. And, if that kind of content, it made sense to you, leave your like. It is a way of reinforcing that message, and to show that we are on the correct path together. To get to the end of it is an act of attention to you, even you, and I appreciate that you have dedicated time to this conversation. Each and every step of this journey, it is important to you, and the next chapter is waiting for you, with more thoughts, more new discoveries, more opportunities for growth. So it is with me, click on the video side. It's because of the continuation of this story out there waiting for you. This day is ours, as well, and each and every one of us has an important role in it. I'm happy to have you here, to the very end, and I hope that this debate will continue as an echo inside of you, inspiring you to keep up with each time more and more connected to your truth. Until the next video, because the best is yet to come, and that journey will only make sense when we went out together.